Hey artists, today we are going to begin drawing the outline of our 1-point perspective city. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of this project done by former students, and they had several different solutions for this design project. I want to point out a couple things about this. There is 1 point in the middle of this design, and everything, all the buildings, all the cars, the street, the sidewalks, and the dots in the middle of the road, they all look like they're getting smaller as they go towards that dot. It's called the vanishing point. Okay. Now this student chose to make a restaurant, a couple places to shop, some cars, but notice that they did something in every building, in the sky and the street. That's something that I want you to do. This student also did an excellent job. We got Target, Forever 21, Adidas, This Is Coming Soon, Five and Below. They did their own characters here. They did some places to eat and drink on this side: Starbucks, Subway, Shake Shack, Panera, and a very interesting sun in the top. This one, same thing, but they colored very, very carefully. Notice they outlined dark and then colored in light with colored pencil. And I'll show you a couple more. Everyone had a different solution for what they wanted to put on the street, on the sidewalk, and in the sky. So your favorite stores, it can be an imaginary location, it could be the neighborhood you live in. All the stores could have to do with you, or they could just be your favorite places. This is another great one. Notice that this student colored in very carefully, all in one direction. It looks very neat and clean, and so it's easy to see the detail. But before we get to the part where we can personalize it and color it, we have to draw the outline. So I want you to get a pencil and an eraser, and you're also going to need a ruler or a straight edge. Okay? It could be the side of a notebook if you need to, because we don't really need to measure anything. We just need to make sure that our lines are all straight. So to start a 1-point perspective drawing, we need to put a dot in the middle of the page. Again, you don't need to measure it. I just want you to eyeball it. Don't put it too high, don't put it too low. Don't put it too far to the left or too far to the right. Just try to get it right in the middle of the paper. This is called the vanishing point. And this is actually located on a line called the horizon. And that horizon line goes all the way across the middle of the page. Now it's going to get covered up by our buildings, but if you've ever been standing on the beach and you look out at the ocean, it looks like the ocean ends at a line that meets the sky. That's called the horizon line. And it's just something that our eyes do. Okay, we know that the ocean doesn't actually end, but our eyes can only see so far, and so it creates this line where it looks like the ground meets the sky. We're going to leave that out, but just know that the vanishing point exists on the horizon line. We're going to start our construction site by making a street. And what I want you to do is use your straight edge or your ruler to connect this dot to the bottom corner of the page. I'm going to hold it still with my non-dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, which means I draw with my right hand, which means I'm going to hold the ruler in place with my left hand. I'm going to push down firmly. Press the side of the pencil up against the ruler and go like this. Now, if you don't hold the ruler down firmly in the middle, it will move as you draw and it'll make a curvy line. Okay, so make sure you hold it down nice and tight. Also make sure that you keep your big old fingers out of the way. I've seen some students go like this. Clearly not a straight line, right? I don't want to see a trace of your fingers. I just want a nice, clean, straight line. And this drawing is going to be symmetrical, so we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Line it up with the dot, line it up at the corner of the paper, press your pencil against the edge, and voila. You've got a triangle. So this doesn't really look like a road yet, but it will. It will. Let's do the top of the sidewalk here. If it helps you, you could put a mark there and connect the vanishing point with the mark on the side of the paper, like that. And do the same thing on the other side. Put a mark right here, just about that tall. Line it up here, line it up here, and connect. Cool. In the middle of the road, we're going to put a dotted line. Now, when you're driving, in a few years, you're going to go to driver's ed and they're going to tell you if there's a double yellow line, you are not allowed to pass somebody. But when there's a dotted line, as long as you're safe and not going over the speed limit, you can go into the other lane and pass around the people. And it's actually kind of fun to make the dotted line because it really makes the road look like it's going away from us into the distance towards that vanishing point. So I want you to do a very skinny triangle from the dot down to the bottom, from the dot down to the bottom. If it helps you, you can make 2 marks at the bottom of the page as well, very close together, and then just connect them to that dot there. Notice that all of my diagonal lines touch the vanishing point. This is very important for perspective. If you don't let the diagonal lines touch the vanishing point, it will destroy the illusion. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to go erase, 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 all the way down. And as I get further towards the bottom of the page, as I get closer to myself, the spacing is going to become wider. That's going to allow me to go connect, connect at the top and the bottom of the erase mark. Connect, 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 line, 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 line. What this does is it makes these dotted lines look like they're getting bigger as they get closer to us. Okay? Now this is one of the hardest things. When we are making the sidewalk, we know that sidewalk squares are squares when you're standing right on top of them and looking down at your feet. Okay? But when you're actually walking down the street, the sidewalk does not look square. So here's what we need to do. I need you to line up your ruler at the bottom of the paper. Draw a line on that sidewalk. It's perfectly horizontal. It is parallel with the bottom of the paper, which means it will never touch. Then I want you to move your ruler up and line it up with the line you just drew. This assures us that our ruler is perfectly horizontal. Don't start tilting. If you start tilting the ruler, your sidewalk is going to look slanted, like the people would just fall right off of it. Okay? So I did 2 lines there. I'm going to keep sliding my ruler up. However, as it gets closer to that vanishing point, the sidewalk blocks need to get a little smaller and closer together. So I'm going to move it up less and less each time, but notice that I still keep it perfectly horizontal. I never let it tilt. That means each of these sidewalk blocks gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until they disappear. It's like if you got into a fight with your best friend and they start stomping away from you and walking down the road, you could go like this with your fingers and watch them get smaller and smaller until it looks like you could squish them between your fingers. Well, you know they're not actually getting smaller. That's just what happens when people get further away from us. Our eyes see that they get smaller and smaller. Let's do the same thing on the other side. Line it up at the bottom of the paper. Draw a horizontal line. Move it up. Line it up again. Notice that I kept it perfectly horizontal, not tilting at all. I'm going to be watching, and if you tilt it, I'm going to make you erase it and redo it. As I get closer to the vanishing point, I slide it up less and less and less. Very cool. Right now it kind of looks like railroad tracks. It looks great, but we need to make it look like a sidewalk, and the way we're going to do that is by adding a curb, and a curb is the little part that comes up from the road so that cars don't jump up and hit pedestrians, okay? So just put a little mark underneath your sidewalk like that and connect it to the vanishing point. Checking here, I check here, draw my line. Don't make it too big because otherwise it's going to look like a Grand Canyon. Now I'm going to go line, line, line. This needs to be a right angle. This is a 90-degree angle. I know you've learned all about that in your math class, so don't let those slant. Those need to be perfectly vertical. These are perfectly horizontal lines. Vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal. That looks like a realistic sidewalk. What's cool is down the road when we start personalizing this, you can actually make like a sewer here. Don't do this yet, I'm just showing you a demonstration. You know how the sewer water can go in there, and sometimes there's like a sewer or a drain. Call it a manhole cover here. Be like an oval. Okay, so you can actually start adding some detail in the road but that comes later. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and connect from this dot down to the bottom. Notice a very thin sliver. Line, line, vertical, vertical, all the way down. Whew, take a break. Stretch your fingers. Make a face at your best friend. I just made a face at Miss Green. Don't worry about it. Now we got to do the buildings. Okay, the sidewalks were the hardest part, but the buildings are going to be the second hardest part, so I really need you to pay attention here. We're going to do sort of like how we started our drawing last time. We're going to go... I actually want buildings that have two different sizes on them. Notice how this student did a tall building, short, tall, short. They didn't really do it right on this side. Their art teacher must not have taught them very well. How about this? You'll be able to see it better here. Tall, short, tall, short. And for the tall buildings, you can see this little side area where it actually looks like the building goes back. Otherwise, they look too flat, okay? Okay. Let me get this cord out of the way, I'm sorry. So I want you to do a line from the vanishing point. Hold your ruler, have it go up to the top corner, and then draw another mark right here. Connect it, connect it. Nice. This is going to be the guideline for the tall buildings and for the short buildings. Let's do the same thing on the other side. From here to the corner. Draw a mark just a little ways down. Now those are just our guidelines. I probably should have told you to draw them lightly, but we're going to make our buildings now. Just like we had the sidewalk blocks perfectly horizontal, the lines that made our sidewalk blocks, we need our buildings to be perfectly vertical. What that means is I'm going to line my ruler up against the side of the paper, then I'm going to slide it over. I want about 5 or 6 buildings. They do not need to line up with the sidewalk. I want one from the top guideline here to the top of the sidewalk. Don't bring it all the way down here. Buildings stop when they hit the sidewalk. Line your ruler up, move it over. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 buildings. You could have 5 or 6. If you do more than that, they're going to start to look real small. And if you do less than that, it might be kind of boring because there won't be that many buildings. Let's do the same thing over here. Line your ruler up perfectly vertical against the side of the paper. Move it over. When you move it over, do not let it tilt. If it tilts, it's going to look like a bunch of crooked teeth. Keep moving it over and make those buildings get smaller and closer together as they go towards the vanishing point. Okay, cool. But these don't really look like buildings yet. We need to make them different heights. So what I want to do is, I want you to go erase, erase, erase. I'm just going to put the X's there to show you which ones we're going to erase. I'm going to erase the inside line, the outside line, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. Bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. Now I go back with my eraser. You can use your pencil eraser. I'm actually going to use one of these white plastic erasers. They sometimes erase a little bit better for me. Don't worry, once you color it all in, you won't be able to see your erase marks at all. So I erased the bottom guideline, top, bottom, top, bottom, top. Alternating pattern. Same thing on the other side. Okay, I have my buildings at different heights, but see how they look kind of flat? Like they were a prop on a stage? What I need to do now is connect on this side. I'm going to take the top corner of the tall building. I'm going to go, this side goes that way. Bring it over until it hits the other building, then stop. See the tall building? Bring it over until it hits another building, stop. So you can either color it in, or you can draw more lines, or you can make it a brick pattern. Brick pattern is just line or horizontal lines, and then some brick shapes. Notice how I alternate where the lines are. Looks pretty cool. Now on this side of the paper, so on this side, the lines went that way. And on this side, the lines are going to go that way. So I'm going to go over, over, over. And your choice is shade it in. Matter of fact, if you wanted to make an alleyway, you can shade down a little bit, and it actually looks like the building. Like that. It's pretty good, right? Okay. Or you can draw lines like wood siding. Or you can do your bricks with lines and verticals. Okay. Wow. This is almost ready to be personalized, except let's put some doors and windows there. Okay. You obviously are going to go onto the Google Drive and open up whatever natural disaster you want: hurricane, tornado, volcano, fire, alien invasion, Wild West. You could just do regular, make it a very cool sun and moon. You could do half and half, right? We could do zombie apocalypse on one side and normal world on the other. Totally up to you. Get as creative as you want, okay? But I need a store on every building, a logo on every building, something on the sidewalk, the street, and the sky. Let's do the doors. Go ahead and line up your ruler with the horizon, with the vanishing point, and do a line, a short line in each building. Go ahead and do it on this side too. Doesn't really matter if it's here or here or here, as long as all the doors are lined up. Now, what is important is that the side of the doors are perfectly vertical, parallel with the side of the building. So I'm going to line up my ruler on the side of the building, slide it over until I hit my door. I'm going to do it like that. That looks like a door. You can do a doorknob. If you want a sliding door, just do 3 lines. And there's so many different types of handles you can do. I'm going to do this kind of quickly. You can take your time. Obviously, if you want it to look shiny, you can do zigzags, you can do half moon handles. You can do a boarded up shop if you want. Your buildings can be falling apart. Your doors can be all different colors. You could have one of those arched windows on top. I believe in your creativity. So if you want, you could do like one of those garage doors. Okay. Maybe a push bar. It says push. Okay. Windows, same thing. Windows are tougher because they have a bottom and a top. So for the bottom, I need to go like this. And for the top, I need it to go to the vanishing point as well. Okay. Now you could have this be the window or the billboard, right? If this is the logo, like if this is the Target logo, right? That's where the logo would go. But the logos can also go on top of the building. Totally up to you. Okay. And if they are windows, you can put the window panes in there. Lots and lots and lots to do. All right, the very last thing that I'm going to show you is going to be what happens to your cars, trees, people, street lamps as they go towards the vanishing point. Let's say that you wanted to do a street lamp. we'll do it like this. One of those old school street lamps. I'll do a diamond like this. And I'm going to do okay. Street lamp number 1. Cool. I need to make sure that the top of the street lamps follow an imaginary diagonal line like that, which means the next one that I draw needs to be smaller. And they need to get smaller and smaller as they go towards the vanishing point. If you don't do that, it's going to mess up the whole illusion. Then that'll give you an idea of how tall your people should be. Your people definitely aren't taller than the street lamps. So what we could do is put a person here, and as it goes towards the vanishing point, they get smaller and smaller until you barely can't see them, until you can hardly see them at all. Okay? There's hardly any detail over here at all. Same with trees. If I wanted to do a tree, I would do my tree. Unfortunately, it's going to cover up some of the drawing that I did. Erase what's behind it. And the trees are going to keep getting smaller and smaller until they just look like little teeny tiny bushes. But see how the trees keep getting smaller and smaller as they go towards the vanishing point? That's very important to make your street look realistic. Okay, I cannot wait to see how you personalize this. I'm very excited. Remember, I've got a Google Drive filled with characters and different ideas for you, and all you need to do is free draw them or trace them from your computer screen before you outline dark and then shade in lightly with colored pencil.